After the disappointing tour of England, the Indian cricketers bounced back against the West Indies at home, winning 2 test matches in less than 3 days. And there was a wonderful tie in the one day at Visakhapatnam. In the studios of TrintyMirror.tv, we have Professor Sri Ravi Chathurvedi, veteran commentator and a man who has travelled to West Indies 6 times. Sir, welcome to the studios and to Turf Talk on TrintyMirror.tv. So these 2 tests ending less than 3 days, the typical Indians, lions at home and lions abroad. So what are your comments on that, sir?
You see, the first test, the problem was very acute for the West Indians in the sense their captain Jason Holder was injured, and they came all the way, and once again there was not much of preparation by the West Indies team itself. It's a very young team. They don't have many experienced players, and then they don't have that players of that international stature which at one time they used to have, barring 1 or 2. So, and the injury to Jason Holder, their captain, proved they had to pay a very heavy price. In fact, if you look at the videos and, of the playback of the first test match, it appeared as if the West Indies team had lost the plot itself on the very first day. They didn't know where to bowl, how to set the fielding. The Indian players were freely allowed to take singles and twos and all. And that was that they didn't have a B plan or C plan. They just went on bowling, kept a orthodox fielding, which is usually kept for a bowler, and therefore they paid a very heavy price for it. Having said that, now when you look at the ODIs and especially the Visakhapatnam match, there is one thing which the West Indians proved with the captain back in the squad. The strategy that they employed, India ran up a big total of more than 300 runs, which is a very challenging total. It could put a lot of pressure on the opposition. But the way West Indians played, I mean, hats off to them. There's one very important thing as far as the West Indies cricket are concerned. They never, the so-called pressure is maybe on them, but they never take it on themselves. They are a free-flowing cricketers. You never know, the tail-ender may also, there may be a challenge of scoring 50 runs. We may think that we have won the match, but they don't give up till the last moment. And this was proved in the last match. The 2 batsmen, they clicked at the right time. That was the time when somebody had to score down the order, and they clicked. And even the last ball, which was a little wider in Yorker, it was a good ploy by Umesh Yadav, but the player was ready. He knew he had to do something out of the way and extraordinary, and he did it, and the match ended in a tie. As far as the limited over matches are concerned, my own take is that the West Indians will not give you very easily. They are going to be tough matches. They are going to be more challenging than the one-day affair that we saw in the test matches. So let us hope, and let the Indian cricket followers and the crazy Indian cricket lovers, as I call them, they will have a lot to enjoy because the intensity of competition will be a little more than what they have seen. It will not be a one-way traffic. This is my take on the subject.
See, of late, sir, not only this India but even other places also, we are seeing these test matches generally end within 3 or maximum 3.5 days. So given this kind of a situation, you think test match schedule should be reduced to 4 and some kind of more changes have to be brought to make test matches more attractive, because that is the purest form of cricket, as any cricket lover would love to see?
My take on the subject is different. Let's say, analyze why it is happening. Why are the test matches ending in 3 days, or why are the test matches ending before the scheduled 5th day? The reason is simple. It is today the psychology of the batsman so much molded. It is so much oriented towards the limited over cricket. So imagine when you are playing too much of excessive of limited over cricket, the entire approach, your playing technique is more oriented towards that format of the game. Whereas the test cricket approach, technique, everything is very different. to adapt or to change or to alter your technique, your psychology to the new format takes time. So what happens even in test day cricket where you have to stay at the crease, you are tempted sometimes because in a one day cricket and a white ball you can always get away with it because either there is no slip or one slip, so it goes over the head of the slip, which if you try in test cricket it becomes an instinct, you don't want to do it. But since you have been doing it in the one day cricket, so naturally you flash at it and pay a heavy price for it. So it is because of this that the test matches in some cases are ending much before the scheduled dates. Lastly, it's all right, some matches where the two teams, say for example, the two new nations which have joined the test playing countries, Afghanistan and Ireland, they are the babes of international cricket now. They have been exposed to the limited over cricket. Through the ranks of the limited over cricket, they have come into test cricket. Now that is where their skill will be tested, and they did not come up to the expectation. So because the Afghanistan or Ireland loses a match or West Indies even today is no more a force to be reckoned with in the days of Clive Lloyd or Viv Richards. They are also down the hill. Therefore, if some of these teams don't do well, and we think no, test matches should be removed from 5 days to 4 days. If you look back at the history of cricket, the test matches used to be of 3 days. Then they were further added to 4th day and then finally up to 5 days. Why? If there was no decision, the last test used to be played for unlimited days. There are 2 test matches played by England, one against South Africa, one against West Indies. They went on for 10 days. So the cricket administration has also been changing the format. But even 6 test match series have been in 70s. Australia played in West Indies in Australia 6 test match series. I somehow do not agree to this 3 test match series. A test match series should be a full-fledged 5 test match series, because that is where a team has an opportunity to come back, and it has happened in many times. The series was, very well contested. South Africa against England in 54-55, South Africa against Australia in 55, India against West Indies at home in 1974-75. We lost 2 test matches under Nawab Patori. We came back, we won the Kolkata and Madras test, squared the series, but unfortunately lost the last series. So it is not that if the matches finish earlier, let us put them to 4 days. Let the test matches, let them enjoy the royalty which the test matches have enjoyed. Let's not relegate them to the background. So I feel whatever 5-day test matches should remain as it is.
So in the light of what you said, how this player, the pressure and the batsman kind of instinct. So in that context, do you think we should have 2 separate teams, horses for courses? You have this very good test players like Chateshwar Pujara, Rahane, and all really playing test. And we have the younger and other players who are more sort of agile and adaptable, where the eye movement is also faster, the leg movement is faster. Those kinds of players for the shorter versions of the game.
You see, this is what we have been tried in the past also, and I have no, I have no reservation that you have a separate. You cannot have a separate team, but you have certainly your nucleus remains the same, but certainly there are 3 or 4 players which could always be changed. But there are players who have an inherent ability to adapt their game, and I have one example of that of Rahul Dravid. Initially we gave him up that he is no more, he is an orthodox test player, so he should not be into one days. Same way it was true of Dilip Vengsarkar. But when you look at their performance, they were very good at rotating the strike. In limited overs cricket, that is more important. That if you are not able to hit a boundary, rotate the strike. That keeps a pressure on the bowling side. And this Dilip Vengsarkar and Rahul Dravid were able to do very effectively. And Rahul Dravid proved an effective as a wicket-keeper batsman. So you had the luxury of playing with 6 batsmen or 7 batsmen. So that is where sometimes if we label a player that you are a one-day player or you are a test player, that will also be a wrong policy. They are very talented players who could be a fit for any format of the game.
So now coming back to West Indies cricket, you rightly mentioned Lloyd and Richards, but post Richards, they seem to be struggling to have a proper captain who could sort of lead the team by example or by performance. Lloyd was a legend. Richards, then we had Sobers also who was doing very well. So what's happening? Why is it they're not able to get somebody of that caliber who can be a very powerful captain to lead the West Indies team?
In fact, Mr. Amraj, your question has two parts. As the first part, very well you spelled it out. The West Indies captaincy has always been very important because their insular rivalry. Now, because of that jealousy which they had, this problem was solved by one man, Sir Frank Worrell. In fact, even Gary Sobers could not do what Frank Worrell did. Gary Sobers is a great player, greatest all-rounder the game has seen ever. But that ability, that instinct to stitch the team together, that he could not. And unfortunately also, I will give him grace. That is the great team which Frank Worrell had, Hall, Griffith, then great batsman Kanhai, Sobers, Hunt. That batting lineup and that fast bowlers were not available to Gary Sobers. So, and then he could not use the men and material under his command to that extent, and therefore the West Indies cricket came down. But then Lloyd picked it up. But Lloyd also had all the arsenal that is needed for a test cricket. He had the best of the batsmen at his command, and then 5 bowlers to fall back upon. With the result, no spinner was needed by the West Indies team. You know who was used as spinner? Viv Richards, Larry Gomes. Yeah. They won't be bowling in a Ranji Trophy match in India. If they are playing a Ranji Trophy match in India, Viv Richards and Larry Gomes will not get a bowling. That is the standard. So maybe they got some wickets because people had thought that we have a breathing time, so they hit him somewhere here and there and got caught. But that is one thing. After that, what happened? As you very rightly said, they didn't find Richie Richardson. He's a gentleman. He's not an aggressive type of man. He doesn't assert himself. Carl Hooper is the same personality. He also couldn't assert himself. Good players, very international level player. But when it came to captaincy, they couldn't do it. Brian Lara, again greatest batsman. He was a West Indies captain. Chandrapal again was a West Indies captain. All of them good batsmen. They had scored against the best of the teams in the world. But when it came to captaincy, they could not hold the team together or could not give them the lead. And with the result, West Indies cricket fell down. Last but not the least. Last few years, the West Indies board and the players, they are fighting for the payment. Now, some of the players, the West Indian players, because of their acrimony with the board, and they think that maybe they will not be so lucrative playing for West Indies, they are playing into IPL and other leagues also. Now, when your top players are not available for a team, the result is that the West Indies cricket is nosediving. That is one of the biggest reasons of the fall in the standard of the performance of the West Indies team.
In fact, to say a little more on that, what is the solution for this West Indies cricket to sort out this issue of player that payment differences, and how do they take it forward? Because everybody enjoys watching the West Indies play.
No, there is a bigger issue. I very briefly hinted sometimes maybe in our program, this very program itself. You see, the days when West Indies was coming to the top, the players who came, they came from a very modest background. And when they found, and they were not very well educated, when they found the platform of cricket, they thought this is the opportunity. If they make the best out of it, that will be better for their life and for times to come. And they put everything that they had, and they had ability also. And therefore, it not only the individual so much, not only it was the fact that the West Indies team was in the process. Now, the social change has come in a big way in these islands, especially the bigger islands, where people are getting educated, the children are getting educated. Because they are getting educated, so they get employment also. Media has opened up in a big way all over the world. It's not only in India, in the Caribbean also. Today's youngsters and children, they are watching a lot of American and the British television. With the result that since they are watching those games also like tennis, boxing, football, hockey and all, the youngsters are also drifting towards the other game. At one time the West Indies, the concentration was entirely cricket. They talk nothing beyond that. And what I am talking, the classical example is that 2 World Cups back, Trinidad qualified for the main World Cup competition. So, if a team qualifies for World Cup football competition, this means the amount of the players, the talent which is available for football was enormous. That's why Trinidad was able to imagine a small island qualifying for the World Cup football. So, that is another testimony that psychological, social shift to other games and a big change in society where education is playing a role, where opportunities are available to the youngster to find other avenues of livelihood.
Now, ICC is also, like we say, one of the richest cricket bodies, and it's able to sort of allocate funds and make sure boards have the money. You think they should play a role in making sure West Indies Cricket Board has sufficient funds and that it can take good care of the players?
You see, a parent body has a role to a limited extent. After all, they are all autonomous bodies. They have to plan their cricket in a local way. And the best way to do, why India's cricket today is so strong? Because we have a very strong domestic cricket. Imagine it's no more the Ranji Trophy, it is no more the Dilip Trophy. We have plates named after every player, our great stalwarts of the past. Now this means that we have so much, the domestic cricket has become so competitive in India, and you can see the result. And added to that is the IPL. I mean, IPL, I may not agree with so much of format of the T20, but you look, the talent that the IPL has provided to the Indian team. Today, the biggest gain of Indian cricket is a very strong bench strength that you have, whether it is a question of bowlers, it's a batsman or a wicketkeeper. Imagine Rishabh Pant emerging out of the IPL. If the IPL was not there, who would have known about Rishabh Pant? Who would have known about Jasprit Bumrah? So that is where we have gained. But in West Indies, what is happening is the one factor is the players versus the board. They are not coming from, and especially the bigger players, they are having biggest problem. Chris Gayle has a lot of problem with the West Indies board. So it is when the West Indies board and the players, they are in the confrontation role, that's where it is having taking a very heavy toll of their national cricket.
Now, sir, you had frankly mentioned previously also about Frank Worrell getting players of different kind of cultural identities together. But do you think that issue of regional differences still continues between islands, and that sort of makes the team still not to gel as one unit?
One of the reasons of what I referred to, that the jealousy or between the insular jealousy, well, let's not forget that those were the times when the communication system was very poor. You know, the players were traveling between the islands through boats or ships. In fact, of course, in the pre-war days, the teams were also traveling by ships to England and Australia, whatever, or even West Indies. But with the communication level going high, that means of travel becoming more easily available, now that thing has come down, that intensity of jealousy is not there so much. The problem lies with the West Indies board. The problem lies at the social level. It is cricket administration is to be blamed. The quick changes which are occurring in the Caribbean society, that is to be blamed. Then every new generation has its own priority. Cricket still is a very appealing game in the West Indies, let me tell you very frankly. But the level at which, I mean, I would say the craze which the people had, the craving which they had for the cricket, that spirit is at a low level now. It is not that intense. The intensity has come down, and that is also affecting the West Indies cricket.
Now, talking about the administration, Do you think this has also been a kind of an issue almost everywhere, especially India too? Will the problem be resolved if former players take over administration? You think they can be good administrators? You think like a Clive Lloyd or a Viv Richards or great captains can be good administrators too? And do you think they will be able to sort of build a rapport with players which can, one in West Indies and even generally otherwise too, even countries like India?
Well, part of your question has is very correct. If you look at the older board constituents of the West Indies, the main administrators were themselves the great players of the past. I can give you two very classical examples, which some people of my generation would be remembering those players. Jeffrey Stallmer and Alan Ray, they came in 48 as opening batsmen of the West Indies team. And I know Jeff very closely myself. Now, such players, and Jeffrey Stallmer was not only a good player and a good captain of the West Indies, he was socially a very well established family, in fact, in Trinidad and Tobago. And so therefore, when he took over the presidency of the West Indies board, it was a very difficult time. That was the time when the Packer camp came up and there was an exodus of the top players to the Packer camp. And Stallmer had to face that crisis and very bravely faced it because they had a stature. Similarly, Frank Worrell had a stature. Look what happened to Frank Worrell after cricket. He did not disappear from the stage. He was in the West Indies, University of West Indies as a rector. He was a senator and internationally very well recognized man. So he had that stature, he had that aura which appealed to everyone. Unfortunately, in today's cricketing world, forget few countries, I will not like to name them, that will be wrong on my part to say on the media. But look at those who are running cricket today. Not many boards have people who have really an insight into the game, who really understand the nuances of the game. There are few exceptions, but not majority of the boards. They don't have that people at the top who have contributed to the game or who had played themselves the game at a higher level. And this is because of this, the problems are arising. You look around, it's happening in Sri Lanka, the team is going down, it's happening in other countries also.
So what is the solution, sir? My thing is, should we make players as administrators?
No, I won't agree. This is a very simple answer. We had to, let's give you two examples of Sir Don Bradman, the greatest batsman cricket has ever seen, and the greatest all-rounder, Gary Sobers. Have you ever heard of a coach, anybody coached Don Bradman or Gary Sobers? No, they were natural players. These things come naturally. Administration also comes naturally to people. It's not a cup of tea for everyone. And if we think that the players can be the best administrators, that is also wrong. I'll give you an example of Delhi Cricket Association. Long ago, in 80s, there was somebody who had played a good level, first class cricket, Ram Prakash Mehra, in the pre-partition days in Lahore. He was DDC president. Somehow the players felt that he was no good, so sort of rebellion took place, and so the new set of team came in, headed by our legendary left-arm spinner Mishan Singh Bedi. They lasted hardly a year and a half. Once again, the same thing, the jealousy between the players. So you never know, if you put so many players there may be a jealousy amongst themselves and they say, no, I played better and I am better known than this man, so why should he be the president, I should be the president. So that conflict can come in again there. So, as you say, horses for the courses, it's not necessarily that a good player could be a good administrator or a good player could be a good coach. Gary Sobers never became a coach. He remained a good player, that's it. And after that, he has not entered into area. Vezol, yes, a very versatile man. After cricket, he went into the parliament. He began 24 years he was a member of parliament, and out of that 12 years he was a minister for youth and sports. After that, ardent priest of the church. He was the one who conducted the mass on the death of Malcolm Marshall, and knighted now by the Queen. So every cricketer cannot be the other one. Every individual is different. So it is not that the players will do a better job as administrator. They are administrators. In Chennai, you had administrators, H.RajaMems and all these people, Mr. Sriraman, they were very good administrators. In Bangalore, you have a cricket administrator, Mr. Chinnaswamy, who built up a stadium. In Bombay, you had Mr. Wankhede. These were exceptional administrators. They were really into the game. But there were, at the same time, there have been cricket administrators who did not contribute to the development of the game. So it is a very different story at different levels for the different individuals.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your insights on West Indies cricket and cricket in general.
Thank you.